The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
It's time to go on the mat. The Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
Welcome to On the Mat. This is Jeff Bradley. We're going to have a special, it's our monthly special, You and I Wrestling and PWC edition. Got two great guests lined up. We'll get to the first guest here in a minute, Steve Hartle, a two-time All-American, 1991, 1993. And then we'll finish out the last two segments with You and I head coach Doug Schwab. If we're lucky, Coach Schwab might pop in a little early and maybe throw some questions towards Steve Hartle too. But let's get this thing rolling. Steve Hartle, you on the phone over there?
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing good. How's the weather in Colorado?
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's going to be about 50 today, 60 tomorrow, and then 10 the next day. Typical Colorado winter. Yeah,
I'm not real happy with that because right now I think it's 5 degrees and it's just miserable. And Cedar Falls, because it's windy, it's not good.
Well, I got to feel a little bit of that when I was back at the Vautech duel a couple weeks ago, and the humidity in that air is a lot different than we have out here in Colorado.
No, it is. It's beautiful out there. But like I was saying, Steve, you're a two-time All-American in 91, 93. You kind of alluded to it. We had you back a couple weeks ago with the Vautech duel and recognizing Coach Schwab and the staff doing a real good job of getting former wrestlers, alumni, All-Americans back and recognizing them. But let's start the interview with all my first-time guests have to answer a couple questions from my children. My daughter wants to know what your favorite color is.
I would have to say blue.
Okay. Now, my son, Jake, I was talking to him. I think you saw him at that Vautech meet, but he was he wanted to say he always wants to know what everybody's favorite meal is or food, but he also has another one. So go ahead and knock out the food one, and then I'll give you the second one.
Food's a tough one because I always change what I like. I'm a big seafood fan. I love, let's just go with ahi tuna.
Okay, and then he wanted to know what your favorite wrestling move was. And you probably haven't done a wrestling move in 20 years, but...
I'd say outside single all day.
Yeah, outside single for sure. Okay, great. We got those two knocked out. So you graduated in 93. What, just get caught up a little bit. What'd you major in? How'd you end up out in Colorado, the past few years, and what are you up to now?
Yeah, I majored in sociology, took a sales job basically out of college, selling commercial roofing back in the day, and used that company to relocate out to Colorado at some point, and that was always the goal, and started with that company. Did that for quite a while, got into the insurance industry, was in that for about 13 years doing employee benefits, working on a carrier side and also as a broker, and then about 6 years ago, I got into CrossFit fitness.
So, do you? And I don't know much about that, except we've got a really good guy out here that our athletes go to in the summer and get some good workouts. Armin. So, yep. Do you own
a very good CrossFit gym in that area?
Do you own that, or how does that work then?
Yeah, I do. I had actually been coaching while I was doing benefits. And I was a health insurance broker, and just kind of coach on the side for a couple people, and decided that when Obamacare was rolling around that I might need a plan B. So I started in my garage, which was about 250 square feet, and I just started training a couple neighbors. And from there, it kind of blossomed, and then I rented a little space, about 3,000 square feet, and started opening up to the public, and within about 4 months, we had outgrown that space, and we moved into about a 13,500 square foot space 5 years ago, and been here ever since.
Well, and you did it the right way. I mean, you started small and you expanded and expanded and expanded. That's a great job.
Yeah, it started with just my wife and I, and she would cover classes during the day. I would cover before work and after work, and just kind of caught on out here, and we've just been able to steadily grow, ever since then. And now, we've got, 6 full-time coaches, several part-time coaches, run several programs, open 7 days a week. So it's been a really good thing for us. Really happy about it.
Well, I know some of that CrossFit. I mean, at least to me, it's like speaking Chinese. And Coach Schwab just sat down. I think he's got a question for you about some workout.
Well, there's a few. What's your Fran time? Isn't that's like one of the staples?
Yeah, mine's 2:14.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. I haven't tested it for a while, and as I've aged a little bit, my knees have gotten a little bit rickety. But I think I could push 2 if I was in the right frame of mind.
That's a throat burner. That's for sure.
Yes, it is. Have you done it?
Oh, I've done it. Yeah. My range of motion probably isn't very good though, so I probably would have never passed one of them on doing strict. So.
Got it.
So I don't know if you could ever really count my time because by true standards, they probably wasn't legit. But how about triple Murph? We did triple Murph one time. You ever tried that one? That's fun.
Triple Murph?
Yep.
I have not done triple Murph. I've done it, and for those of you guys listening, Murph is it's a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats, then a mile run. And I've done it in several different varieties, whether you do it straight through, vested. Mm-hmm. Done it. I've never done triple. So how was your experience with that? It was
awful. It took a long time. One of them, Randy Pugh, for 30 days straight, he did Murph. And then the last 30? Day, for a whole month he did it. And then the last day he's like, I'm going to do three of them. So then me and Armin did it with him together, and it took a long time. It was pretty brutal.
Oh, my God. So you did the mile on the front?
Yep.
Did you do it straight through, or did you partition the reps?
Just try to go straight through as quick as could.
That's, I don't know if I can handle that one anymore. I'm getting a little bit old for that one. One time's enough for me. That's very impressive, though.
Do you still have some of the original people from the start? You know, I mean, that it started with your gym, kind of started small and gritty, and maybe you still have some of those people that from the start?
Oh, absolutely. I'd say, I don't keep track of the stats of that, but we probably have 100 to 150 of our originals still here.
Wow.
We're up to about 600 people, so we've expanded quite a bit. So
that's awesome. You probably get to see a lot of people's lives change too, so that's awesome. I mean, they get healthy.
It's interesting because it can be a sport, it can just be fitness, a way of life, and as you know, the beauty of coaching is that it never stops. And every single day, in every single class, or there's always someone has overcome some type of obstacle that they're excited about, and just to be a part of that is just a phenomenal experience.
So a little more exciting than selling insurance.
Yeah, I had to go. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. That's there's not a day goes by where I miss that industry.
You're listening.
Now I'm on the other side of things.
You're listening to 6050 The Fan with Jeff Bradley, Doug Schwab, and Steve Hartle. Hey, Hart, talk a little bit about early days growing up. I know you're from Sioux City. Not 100% sure you grew up there the whole time, but growing up in Sioux City and kind of how you were introduced to wrestling.
Yeah, I grew up in Iowa Falls. Don and Ron Jones were my two earliest coaches. And my dad was also a college coach at Ellsworth College at the time. And so, from the day I could walk, we wrestled. And I've got an older brother, a younger brother, and it was, it was just what you did. And then moved out to Sioux City when I was a junior in high school. And then under Del Hughes, and was able to win a title my senior year with Del. So that was that's kind of how the high school thing went.
Yeah, Del, he was pretty legendary, and he was a good coach, and then was a pretty good official too after that. So
Del Hughes and Joe Gormley, former UNI Panther, was the assistant coach at the time. So Joe was really instrumental in me going to the next level.
Well, that's kind of funny. I was going to bring that up a little bit later, but as far as I can tell, there's been 4 state champs from Sioux City East. Steve Hartle, Nate Hartle, Joe Gormley, and Andrew Anderson. And then the funny thing is, all of them went to UNI. So that's pretty cool.
I think a lot of that comes from Joe, though, too. I mean, when I was going through the process, I know Joe was a huge advocate for me to go there, and then Nate and I got the opportunity to wrestle together, which was phenomenal, and I'm so happy that he did that. And honestly, I've never met Andrew, but I've heard some good things about him. So,
no, he's a good guy, real good guy. Did you see anything over there on the, because I'm from Eagle Grove originally, north central Iowa, and then moved to Lamar's, 20 minutes from Sioux City. Did you notice a drop in the competitive nature of wrestling at the high school level, from the maybe the middle of the state to the east side of the state?
I would say just a little bit top to bottom back in my day. Being in Iowa Falls, we had Eagle Grove and Webster City, and Fort Dodge wasn't too far away.
Yeah.
You had a lot of great wrestling programs and individuals. So across the board, I thought it was a little stronger. Whereas when we got out to the western side of the state, you had a lot of good individuals, but I don't think the teams were necessarily as strong top to bottom in my day.
No, I think I agree with that. I think, Lewis Central helped, when they got really, really good for a long time. But, boy, it seemed like that western part of the state, you'd find some real good individuals, but the team depth was just not there. And if you want,
and obviously,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you had, Spear Lake had some good wrestlers, and Emmitsburg obviously wasn't too far away, had some really good wrestlers. But, I think you're right.
So I want to talk a little bit about your state championship in high school, but before that, you were more than just a wrestler. You were a multi-sport athlete, weren't you?
Yeah, I played football and also ran track, but wrestling was really the only thing that I focused a lot on. I mean, the other two were to keep busy, and I loved football, but when we moved out to Sioux City, I'm a 5'7" at the time, about 140-pound guy, and Sioux City has a pretty strong football program with big numbers. So for me to get on the field, I had to play cornerback, and that wasn't didn't quite enjoy that as much as I enjoyed wrestling. So wrestling was a year-round endeavor.
So talk a little bit about your senior year of high school, winning that state championship, obviously a goal that you worked for, and trained with your brothers and your father's heavily involved. Just take us through kind of that senior year, or maybe just the tournament, and how much of a either relief or enjoyment that was winning that title.
Yeah, it was a I would say relief was probably the best way to put it. I had qualified for state 3 years prior and never placed. And so it was kind of my last hurrah. And, I went into it and had an undefeated season. There's a gentleman that I wrestled named John Heffernan from Council Bluffs, Abe Lincoln, who ended up wrestling at Nebraska. And John and he had been second the year before, and we had battled 4 times that year. We did happen to tie once, and then I won the other 3, and happened to catch him in the state finals. And we had tight matches all year long. And that particular one, I actually, it was the largest margin of victory I had, but it was a tight match up until the end. And I think when it was over, I was just so relieved. It wasn't a jump for joy. It was more of a stand up and put your head down and just be proud of what you finally accomplished.
No, I get that a lot. Probably more relief than exhilaration for most of the guys that I interview.
And I think the other thing too that I would caution young wrestlers is I think I warmed up for about 3 hours before that match, and I was so exhausted that I think I had given everything I possibly had. And, having to go back, I'm sure I would have not warmed up near as much.
Yeah. I remember that for my first state title, my freshman year, we're in the hotel at 5 o'clock. Me and Ben Euchre were warming up, so. Yeah, I remember doing that. That was not smart.
I went down in the basement in Des Moines where all the mats were in the warm-up mats, and I think I started running it literally 2 hours before my match.
And juxtapose that with I've seen guys down there like the 220s and the bigger guys sleeping like through the first 3 or 4 weights, and I'm like, I don't know how they can do that, what they're dreaming about, but it's just totally out. The coach has to go over and wake them up. Okay, you better get warmed up. Got a state finals match. So there's 2 spectrums of that.
Never realized those big guys were so smart.
So let's move on. So you win your state title. Obviously, you want to keep competing in college. Talk a little bit about the recruiting process and how you ended up at Northern Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty. It was a relatively short process because I was kind of a late bloomer. Won a state title, ended up winning the freestyle state, and then about that time, a lot of people had already filled their lineup. So my choices came down to Northern Iowa, and Nebraska. And, I just visited Northern Able and got to spend some time with the team, and I just felt at home. I liked the size. I liked, obviously, the guys that I was able to meet. I was a big fan of Briggsy. It just felt right.
So you mentioned Don Briggs there. Talk a little bit about the impact he's had on you, through your college. And, if I've got the years right, you must have had Jim Miller for a year or two before he went to Wartburg. I think I've got the years right.
So Millboy and Briggsy, I think the world of both of them. Obviously, I wouldn't be where I'm at today without their guidance and leadership. And I think they did some phenomenal things at Northern Iowa. And then obviously Millboy, I got a chance to talk to Jim 2 weeks ago at the Vautech duel, and I'm like, I don't remember ever crying so much in my life as the day I found out he was going to Wartburg, because we got to train a lot together, and it was just a sad day. I was really happy for him, but I think that's just the kind of impact he has on young men. I see a lot of things in Millboy that I see in the program now from what I hear with Doug and all the stuff I read on the program, and that he's taken that one step further. So I'm really excited about that as well.
So now you're on campus. You're a redshirt freshman, or maybe you're a freshman. And I remember we had, this is off my memory, 4 or 5, great Division I 42-pounders. I think Steffensmeyer was at 42. I think you were at 42. I think Dotson was at 42.
Charlie Dotson, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm missing a guy or two. I remember looking at that board one time, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We're like 5 or 6 deep, quality Division I guys. So I guess this is kind of a two-part question. What do you remember about the first, it's the huge jump from high school to college to start, and then the weight class you want to wrestle at is like 5 or 6 deep with quality guys?
Yeah, it's, I think as a freshman, and I knew I was going to redshirt right away, I just felt like when I went in, I didn't have any pressure, because all I had to do was go in and wrestle. And sometimes I think when athletes, and I experience this while I'm coaching CrossFit athletes now, getting them prepped for regionals in the game, is that sometimes you just got to let go and enjoy it and just go. And I think for me that helped me the first couple years, because I didn't come in with all these accolades. I didn't come in with the expectations of being a 4-time state champ or a multiple-time state champ. I just put my nose to the grindstone and worked and had fun. And I think that allowed me to be pretty loose and free back in those days. And I think that had a lot to do with it, being able to, step out on top that freshman year.
Hey, Steve, we're running real short of time, but I really want to thank you very much, and thanks for being on the mat today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jeff.
We'll be right back. Doug. We'll be right back with Doug Schwab.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When all you want is sports, all you need is 1650 The Fan.
Welcome back to On the Mat. I'm Jeff Bradley. My next guest, everybody's heard him on here before, head coach of University of Northern Iowa, Doug Schwab. And he actually kind of guest hosted with Steve Hartle there. Man, we got talking about wrestling and just ran out of time. I have to apologize. I didn't have my eye on the clock, and I wanted to hear that story. And sorry for folks out there that didn't hear it, but I got it offline. And
yeah, it's easy to do when you get talking about wrestling, but sound like he said that was a big win for him, because I just kind of asked him off the air what, if that kind of made the difference for him, because sometimes you kind of need that breakthrough victory. You've done a lot of work, and you're right there, but man, sometimes especially like you said, he beat a 3-time All-American. It kind of really put him over the hump and just really propelled him, to, I think, for the rest of the season. Probably made a difference, obviously, in the national tournament, like you were saying, and that's where I feel like a lot of our guys are at right now. In this, what we have coming up in front of us, the Southern Scalpel is going to be that opportunity for all our guys on the team, because every weight's going to have multiple highly ranked guys. So,
but it not only obviously does great confidence for the individual, but the other guys in the team, you knock off an Okie State. Back when they were probably ranked 3rd or 4th in the country that year. It's a momentum builder and gives everybody confidence, and confidence is fleeting. You know that. Yeah. It's hard to get.
Well, it validates everything you've been doing, and that's kind of those breakthrough victories. Yeah, so and we've had some guys get a few this year and been close to a few more, and I know there's going to be a lot more in front of us. So
Well, we're going to circle back around. We're going to talk about some PWC here in a minute, and then a lot of UNI wrestling in this next couple segments. But I know you have a big announcement you want to make here, and if you don't follow Allison Schwab on any social media, this will be an announcement. If you do, then you already know. But you can go ahead and tell everybody.
We got twin. They'll be identical, I guess. We just found out they'll be identical twin boys or girls in June. So,
well, how'd you find out they're identical, but you don't know boys or you're not finding out? I guess. Is that it?
If I have my way, we won't find out. But she wants to find out. We didn't in the two boys, and okay. I don't know. Just man, there's not many like surprises left in your life, and that's one where because I was convinced the first one was going to be a girl, and all of a sudden it comes out and it's a boy, and I mean it just seems kind of you can get caught up in the moment a little bit, and I don't know, so that's what I'd like to do. But it's also you got like double the ultrasounds. I mean, there's so much more things that go into with twins just that they're going to check up on, and I don't think she's afraid that I think sometimes someone's going to come in and be like, oh, the boys or the girls look great because they don't know you're going to get tested so many times. So I don't know. We'll probably find out, but I'd prefer not to. But I mean, if she wants to find out, we'll probably find out. So I think she's got control of that.
So I guess a couple things there. Obviously, congratulations, great. Yeah. And then my other thing is like, what are you thinking? I mean, were you planning on having more kids? It's just like that would shock me.
We weren't not planning on having more kids. I mean, it happens, man. Said like takes. Not everybody can make two kids at once. That's all I know.
No,
I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So
I didn't know if that was the goal, but
I don't know.
No, it's not. Well, Schwab's going to go from 4 to 6 here pretty quick. Yeah. A few months.
Man, I'm thinking about my recruiting classes in the future. Hopefully.
Okay, very good. Now we've had some PWC socials. Do you want to speak a little bit about those? We had a couple, and then there's more coming up in the future.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have to raise all the funds. I mean, there's a separation. The university and PWC are separate as far as our funding. So everything that we get to raise through the PWC is through our events. We have a golf outing, we have a raffle, we have a shoot, but when we also want to be able to get people to join and be part. They can join for $100, they can join for $3,000, they can join for as much as they would want to. So we've went out to some of the communities and just get in front of people and kind of tell them what the PWC does and who it supports, and the guys that it supports Brett Robbins. He's a volunteer coach, and we wouldn't have a volunteer coach without him. So it's obviously that's critical. We have Joey Laser and Blaze Cabell are they're competing right now. They just went out to New York EC. They're in our room every day. Cruz is also part of the PWC. So those guys are critical pieces to they're not our staff, but they're supplementary to our staff. And they're also their hands on, their eyes on with our team on a daily basis, and it makes a difference, man. Just having that high level and having guys that are striving to be not just the best in the country, but the best in the world. Those guys, they're going to go out to a training camp out into the Colorado Springs for about 10 days. They're going to bring that stuff back. They're going to get to go overseas to a tournament. They're going to be able to bring that stuff back. So, and if you look at the teams around the country, that are doing really well, they have a strong club backing. They have 2 or 3 or 10 guys training in their room every day. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if they're a national champion. In Penn State, you can look at what they have right now. I think they have 5 guys that have been maybe in the World or Olympic finals that are in their room on a daily basis, maybe 6, depending on who's in their room. So it does make a difference when you have that high level and you just have guys around that type of high level thinking and wrestling, and it does make a difference. So the club's critical to us in advancing and keeping our program moving forward. So, and
both our guys, Blaze and Joey, they're both ranked in the top 10.
Yep.
In the United States at their weights.
Yep, at 60. Joey's at 61 kilos, and then Blaze at 97 kilos.
So Joe Colon was in the club. Now he's taking a job down with Grandview.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure he's going to still compete or if he's just going to coach.
I think he's going to continue to compete. He had an injury that he's working himself back from right now, and I don't know where that thing's at. I think that still has got a ways to go. before he'll compete. And obviously you wish a guy the best, but sometimes it's the best for everyone when guys move on. And give themselves different opportunities and give themselves a different place to train and be around. So, like I said, we wish him the best. But I mean, that's what happens, man. Sometimes guys come and go, but it doesn't. The thing is not one guy makes a program. It doesn't matter who it is. So we're continuing to move forward, and the clubs is strong. It's in a good spot. These guys are getting prepared for the Dave Schultz right now as their next event, and then they're going to go to an overseas event, and then they'll have the U.S. Open. So we got their calendar in place and are getting these guys moving forward. In they said get them from being ranked maybe 5th to being the top guy. You know, and at both those guys' weights right now, they both got the world champions. I don't know if you saw Stieber. Stieber just won a world title at 61 kilos, and then. You got Snyder, who's been a world Olympic champion at those guys' weights. So they have the best guys in the world at their weights, and it's a great opportunity for those guys because obviously if you can make the team, then you're one of the best guys in the world.
No, there's no doubt about that. And I did see I think he got his medal medal stolen.
He got everything stolen.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, hopefully he gets those things back. I mean, those are things that you can't replace. I don't know, it tells us a little bit about our world, but hopefully he gets it back. But obviously they can't take away him being a world champ, and I would imagine that UWW would do something to rectify that if he doesn't get it back. I mean they've made one belt and medal, they can make another one. So
you're listening on the mat on 1650 The Fan with Jeff Bradley and head coach University of Northern Iowa Doug Schwab. So let's pivot back to you and I wrestling and. Some sad news with Cooper Moore. Yeah. I want to bring that out. Injured himself. Looks like a career-ending injury or season-ending, which, he's a senior this year.
Yeah. I mean, wrestling's a tough sport, I mean, and I was you're sitting in the room when it happens, and it doesn't look like anything, and just kind of sometimes freak things happen. I mean, I don't know other than say than he was in a good spot. He looked great, too. We really giving him time off. I think he was rested well. He was in a good frame of mind. And the great thing about Cooper is he's still around. He's still supporting the team. I'm sure there's times when it probably catches up to you. I mean, that's just I think any times when you kind of come to grips with something that you've strived for so long and that you've had in front of you and a goal and a dream that you have, and then all of a sudden it's gone. I know that's a tough thing to deal with. But you know what? He's much more than just a wrestler. I mean, he's not going to define himself as just a wrestler and what my credentials are, and we don't want any of our guys to do that. We don't want them to just be, well, as long as if I get what I want, and I'm a national champion, then everything's good, and then if not, then everything's for naught. We don't want things like that. We want guys that are able to keep perspective, and that's a little bit what I think Hartle was talking about. He's like, I kind of just got to be able to have fun, and in my perspective was I'm just going to see how good I can get because I don't really have this pressure on me. I wasn't all these things, and we want our guys to be able to do that if they were a 4-time champ or whatever they were. Just kind of be able to let it fly and be prepared as they can be, but then be able to let it go. But Coop's he's strong faith, strong family. He's going to be stronger for this. I have no doubt. And it's just a lesson for our guys that things don't always go as you plan them to go, and you never know when it can be done. So take advantage of each day and each opportunity that you have, and make the most of it. And then when you look back, you can still feel pretty good about it. And I know he's okay with everything. I mean, as bitter as it can be. I know he's being able to move his life forward, and hopefully he's better in a better spot, just from being part of the team and being around the people that he is. And like I said, he's still around the team supporting them. And I'm not a guy who ever writes anybody off, though, and I told him that. I mean, I know what the doctors say. I know what, they're talking about that kind of injury. So I'll just never write a guy off, but obviously where he's at, it doesn't look very good. It's certainly not a spot you want to be in, and you're certainly prepared to be able to move forward and for it to be done. But man, something in the back of my head, I'm just always like, you never know. Yeah. And if I think if I lose that as a coach, then I probably shouldn't coach anymore.
It's kind of a double whammy though, coming off Blaze, not going to the national tournament last year, where I thought you can't say anybody's going to be an All-American. You just can't in that grinder that's called a national tournament. But I'm telling you, he was going to be an All-American.
Yeah.
And then I looked at Cooper Moore that this fall was just throttling guys. I mean, almost like an anaconda who'd wrap around you and guys couldn't even move. So obviously you just can't give him an All-American, but he was on, to me, he was ramping up to that easily to be in the top 8. So sad in that way. Plus side, obviously, I mean, he's a good man. He's a good student, so he will rebound.
Yeah, strong faith. And like I said, he's not just a wrestler. He doesn't define himself as just a wrestler. I mean, he's much more than that. And we don't want any of our guys just define ourselves on our win-loss record, because every one of our guys is much, much more than that. And that stuff's fleeting, I mean, you feel good if you win. It's more in the preparation and the process and how we overcome adversity and those type of things. And these are real life adversities that are hitting guys right now, and you're really finding out what they can handle and how they move forward. And he's doing a great job of it. So love him, and I know he's gonna, like I said, he's gonna come back stronger, just as a man.
So I don't know how much you can talk about recruiting right now, if at all. I guess I'll just leave it out there, and you can kind of say what you can say. I
can tell you that there's some seniors that they're still working on, but I think everyone knows that the recruiting process is speeded up. You see there's some sophomores, but you see a lot of juniors already committing. So actually, some of our coaches are we're out today. We don't have practice in finals week, so we got some of our coaches are out today. And you're starting to give offers. We've never given offers this early, but that's how things are moving, because you don't want to sit back and wait and all of a sudden the guy commits somewhere else and you never even had the opportunity. Right. We feel good, and there's some really good kids in state that are juniors this year. And obviously there's a lot of good juniors around the state, but we've really got our targets zeroed in on, and we're starting to make offers. We're starting to get things out there, and you'd love to get the ball rolling and get a guy committed, because I think about Max a couple years ago, and when he committed, it kind of really got the ball moving for us, and then all of a sudden you get then you get a Steyr, and then you get a Lujan, and then you get, it's kind of, that's how those things fall, and we want to get our first piece in place, and I think kids are just, this is how it's going to work now. I mean, guys are going to commit way earlier. I mean, it's going to be a junior year. Hartle's talking about it was probably the spring of his senior year after he won state,
sure.
And that's how it used to be. Now it's you're getting kids on campus as a freshman, and you're getting them to a meet, and you're getting them on unofficial visits, or you're getting them in your regional training center. You're getting these kids around, and you're spending time with them, and it's just going to keep moving faster like the other sports. I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing, but it's just the way of the world. And for us, we can't sit back and wait and we're going to do things like we've always done them, and then everyone's off the board, and you're like, oh man, well, okay, we wanted this guy and this guy and this guy, and he's already gone. So I'm just telling you, we've moved faster, and we're going to continue to move faster, and we got our targets, and we're going to get things out there, and hopefully we get a first domino to fall.
Okay, we just have a little bit of time here left in this segment. It is finals week at you and I. Kind of go through, we got about 2 minutes to talk about it. Go through kind of the mindset of the training here, the week of finals, the time off, and maybe even take yourself back to, your finals when you were at Iowa and what, how you ran through that.
Yeah, just, this is a little bit of a time to get for guys to get a breather, and we want them to take care of finals. So they have lifts, a couple lifts this week, and then we're done with finals on Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're going to have some good training, and then we'll let them go home. And they'll have a good 8-day, 9-day period at home before we come back before the Southern Scuffle. And then we'll have, a few days of training. We'll have 3 days of training, and then we head down there. But I can remember coming back, and you went home a little bit, you got on the mat, but it was really a refreshing time, to kind of get away, and you don't have a coach over you. Our guys should have so much in the bank right now that they can't really outdo a lot of the work that they've done. As far as if they totally let themselves go, different. But if they get a little time away and they get a breather, they've banked enough to where they should come back, and they should be in a pretty good spot. Really, it's just refresher. Hammer the finals this week. Really finish strong, because like I told them in anything, man, we want to finish strong. We want to finish a match strong. We want to finish school. We want to finish whatever it is. We want to finish it strong. And then we'll have a good training good training time. We'll do something as a team one of the nights, and then they'll get home and be able to just relax and spend some time with their family. I think guys really need that, the first half, and then once you get to that second half, it's pretty much on. It's every week until we get to the second week in February.
Well, finals week brings back some great memories. Hey, Coach, we'll be back in about a couple minutes for that last segment. We'll talk about some more UNI wrestling.
Log on and listen online at 1650thefan.com, the online home of 1650 The Fan.
Welcome back to On the Mat. I'm Jeff Bradley. For the third segment here, we're still going to have Coach Doug Schwab. Almost said that like it was like a downer, like still going to have him.
Yeah.
Not at all.
1650 The Fan, that's all I know.
Excited to have you. Always love having you on the show. Hey, let's talk a little bit of kind of set up the segment a little bit. We're going to talk some results on this last third. I don't know if it's a half a season, about a third of the season, and then we'll set up a lot of big events coming up here, January, February, and obviously in March. But let's go way back to the Grandview Open, and you can pull out a few guys if you want to. I think we had like 6 champs, 20 place winners in both divisions.
Good Lord. I have to really go back in my mind. That's tough to do because I'm thinking about the Wisconsin meet. And
we'll get to that. We'll get to Wisconsin.
I think there's definitely been growth. I think that's kind of what I'm looking for, to see if guys have gotten better, if they're making some improvements as the season goes on. If I watch a guy like, Max Thompson, is he better now than he was then? And there's no doubt. He's being able to relax. He's going to both sides of the body more. He's being able to open up more offense. So those are all really positive things. I know he won that tournament. A guy like Lujan being very offensive, but now starting to have his head position a little bit better, staying in his stance a little bit more. So you start seeing those guys they're starting to make jumps. A guy like Foster, man, he's made a huge growth just in being able to relax. He'd come into matches and he'd almost wear himself out before, and the other day he was able to score, and he was able to score late in the match. And he hadn't been able to do that. So, those are kind of things that I guess I'm looking for. Those guys competed well, but now they're competing better even a month later. So, I could go on and on about, a number of the guys, but, you're starting to kind of see those things take place, and you're starting to see them grow from the first event. And I think we're, about 6 dates in, I think that we've had so far. So, I think that's the big thing, is I just want to see that trend if we continue to grow and get better and gain steam throughout the season. And I believe those guys are, and I would just got to keep having more and more guys be able to do that.
And then we got into the dual meet portion, wrestled Nebraska Kearney, Utah Valley. Well, that's back in November already.
Yeah.
Pretty much put a beating on those two teams. And then came out, I think a week later and wrestled Virginia Tech, 5th in the country. Give me your thoughts on that Virginia Tech dual meet. Great atmosphere.
Yeah, when the West Gym's packed, it is an incredible atmosphere. I think that the fans were really kind of yearning for something to get really excited about. Elber was able to, get in a fall in that situation. I just think there was, and I remember saying after the meet, there was, I think, one team that came out expecting to win, and the other one wasn't sure. And you can kind of see that. And when you're uncertain when you step out there, and then you try to get certain as the match goes, that's a tough place to be. And then a lot of times you realize, well, I can wrestle with this guy, or I could beat this guy, but then you figure it out too late. And then after the match, you're like, well, why did I give that guy so much respect in those situations? And for me, it was a learning experience, and I challenged the team, like, how do we respond to this? And they responded well. The next week wrestled well at Old Dominion. I thought the guys that wrestled at the UNI Open that we had, that were our lineup guys, wrestled well. Now we're kind of in the same boat again with Wisconsin. How do we respond? And I guess to me, that's what's most important, because this is all practice for March, man. There's not a single person that is going to remember the Wisconsin meet or the Virginia Tech meet or the UNI Open when we get to March. But also, not saying that stuff's not important, but it's how we move forward from it. And I think our guys are responding well, and that they do have a lot of positive energy, because they feel and know that they are getting better.
So let me ask you this from a pure coaching aspect. if you watch that Wisconsin you and I meet, Wisconsin probably had 30 minutes of riding time. You know, I'm probably joking on that, but
they had a lot.
So I know that tears you up because one of your positions you worked on and made yourself good because you were I would say fair at best your freshman year, and you worked your tail off and got actually great on the bottom. So the coaching aspect of it, what are the things the guys need to do to get out on the bottom?
We've been working a lot of like spiral, so we've been changing over. But these guys were chopping tight waist, and we weren't changing back into them. You know, I mean, sometimes you got to be able to change both directions. And we've been talking about getting our hip points free and being able to create some space. And you know, you couldn't do it the way we were doing it. So I guess for me, it's frustrating if you don't make an adjustment. I mean, you could keep seeing it. It wasn't like it was just one guy. You know, it was kind of across the board. Right. Guys kept doing it, and guys didn't adjust to it. So, you know, one, I'll put some on us from a coaching aspect. Okay, you have your guys prepared for that. But also for our guys, man, when we get into the heat of situations, you have to be able to feel that and make adjustments too. So we just have to get, I think, those guys in those positions more and continue to give guys more and more feel in multiple positions. You know, we'd certainly been spending a lot of time, like I said, in spiral and because we've been getting beat there. And then, you know, they kick the dog out of us with just tight waist and chop and staying in there. So, but again, we can't be afraid. I think sometimes we're scared to get turned, and when you're scared to get turned, you won't move a whole lot. And to be able to get away, you're going to have to create some motion and movement and get some hip space, and you can't just stay very safe and get away from a guy. So, just I think finding that balance for our guys. So yeah, it was frustrating to watch because, man, hey, that's something that you should be able to feel and adjust to. And I guess, you know, from my point, I'll just look at it as a coach. Hey, I got to have these guys more prepared. Then, you know, I'll put it on us in that way. And then for our guys, like, how can we get them to be able to feel and make those adjustments because they're out there? Because I mean, we can tell them when they're walking back to center, but I mean, you know, how many guys does that really register with? You know, I mean, it doesn't. So it needs to be done well beforehand. And for us, you know, we'll have our guys more prepared in that position. There's no doubt. So I guess, you know, good for a good learning experience because we're not going to get ridden with a tight waist and chop.
You're listening to 1650 The Fan. The show is On the Mat. Jeff Bradley and Doug Schwab. Hey, Doug, let's move now to the upcoming schedule. You got just a great tournament you're going to go to. Yep. I think it's January 1st and 2nd, I believe. 1st and 2nd, yep. Southern Scuffle, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Talk a little bit about that tournament and also the reasoning why you would opt out of the Midlands and go to Chattanooga.
Well, from everything that I've heard, it's run as close to the national tournament as any of the events. You know, Midlands does a good job, Vegas does a good job, but it's from the timing even of them, what time the sessions are. I mean, everything's almost identical to the national tournament. So want to do that. There's some teams that we don't get to see. Penn State has been there the last handful of years. It just had kind of how it falls. I think it's a Monday, Tuesday of the week or whatever. So with their Big Ten schedule, I think they have a Friday meet, and they didn't want to do it. Okay. But Okie State will be there, Cornell will be there, Missouri will be there, Lehigh. So those are teams that we wouldn't get to see otherwise, other than Missouri. You know, we wouldn't get to see those teams other than going to the Scuffle. And, you know, having it a couple days later, I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you could come back the 27th over the 26th or 20. You know, I mean, those little things do make a difference. It's down in Tennessee. It should be a little bit nicer down there. I mean, just all those little pieces. And we've never been to the event. I've heard it's a great event, and we get to go down there, so I want to do it. And we get to send 15 guys. So
let me interrupt you there. How does that work? It's kind of an invitational, but it's also got an open aspect to it because you can bring extra guys. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. They give us 15 spots, so you know we may send a couple redshirt guys too. And there's still a few weights that you want to keep guys progressing along. We still have a very young lineup. There's some guys that if they're not the guy this year, they better plan on being the guy next year. So getting that experience and getting to a big event and why not go out and beat somebody good? I mean, why do we need to wait a couple years to do that? Let's do it now. And so we're going to give some guys some opportunities to get down there. a multi-day event too. It'd be the only multi-day event that we get to before our conference tournament. So I think it's important that you get that as a team, at least once in the year.
So now we move more to the middle and end of January. Speak as little or as much as you want on these. Northern Illinois, Central Michigan, and then Iowa State.
Northern Illinois, that'll be our first event back, January 8th. Be great to obviously get teams or get people back in the West Gym. Hopefully we're coming off a very good scuffle. And guys, people are excited to watch our team again. Central Michigan, a tough team to crack, just score points on. I think the last time we went there, they beat us pretty good. So, those things, they're in my head. It's a MAC opponent. But just got to see if we can crack those guys open, be able to score some points. Obviously, Iowa State, I know their record's not very good right now. They haven't had their full team, but I can guarantee you that they will be loaded for bear and be ready to go for you and I. They will be. They will be up for it, and we will be up for it too.
So a couple years ago, we were down there and they had that Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Are they doing that thing again, or
I don't know. Okay. We're a Friday night this time again, so they may have it, they may not. It was kind of a strange thing because, behind the bench, they're running. They're sprinting. They're sprinting right behind you, and I think our guys. I don't know if I think our guys' eyes were just wide. I don't know if they ever got adjusted to it, and I don't know if it was because of that event or it was who were wrestling. But last couple of times we went down there, they've took it to us pretty good. So.
Well, no, I know what you're saying though. At least that last time with that Beauty and the Beast, or maybe that was two times. Yeah. That's a weird deal. It's probably a good deal for Iowa State. They're used to doing that. And what we're talking about is when the gymnastics team and the wrestling team kind of are going at the same time. But there was a little gal from Iowa State tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me," and I was like, "What?" And I was standing right on that thing where she runs down, and I didn't even know it. So I got out of the way. And there's announcers announcing this and that, and people are cheering at weird times because they're watching the gymnastics.
I know they had a pretty good. Maybe there were 6,000 or 7,000 people there. There was more than for a normal meet, right. So I think that's part of why they do it. I don't know if that's that weekend or not. I don't see the guys that we have on our team being starstruck by that. I really don't. I think we'll be ready to wrestle. And then we come back on that Sunday, and I think we wrestle. We wrestle Eastern Michigan. We go to Kent State, Ohio the next week, and then we come back on February 5th and have Oklahoma, at McLeod. So obviously, we're taking over McLeod. We want to have that place packed. I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, but it'll be at noon. You'll be able to be home for Super Bowl Sunday. You'll be able to have plenty of time. Oklahoma, good team. They got a new coach there. And just for us, man, we want to show that we can put 4 or 5. We'd love to put 6,000 people in an arena, supporting our team. And I know we can do that. We just obviously we're trying to get the word out now because we want people to be there. And the schedule that you have, and we were talking about before, we have a lot of control of that. We're steamrolling teams and scoring a lot of points and being exciting and offensive like. I know our guys are capable of doing, then people are going to want to come watch it.
Well, I want everybody to know with that Oklahoma, too, if I believe high school and junior high teams get in free. All they need to do is RSVP to the ticket office. So anybody out there, if you want to bring the team, get a hold of the ticket office, get your free tickets. We're going to pack that McLeod. Going to be a great atmosphere right before Super Bowl.
Yeah, and then, getting, I think it's maybe sectional weekend, or is that district weekend?
Oh man, I'd have to look at the calendar.
Probably it's sectional or district weekend, so guys will they'll wrestle that day. Sunday they need a Sunday to recover a little bit, so be a great day to come and recover in the McLeod. And for us, we can move our attendance up too. All of a sudden we put a 6,000 in attendance, and now we're maybe a top 5 team instead of top 8 or 9. And those things, they are important because we want to show what we can do. And I got some big ideas in the future as far as. Why not try to sell out the dome for a meet? Why not have 18,000 people for an event? The outdoor record's in the state of Iowa. Let's get the indoor record in the state of Iowa too.
So great schedule. We've got just about a minute left. You're going to hit Missouri right before the conference.
Yep.
Can't stress this enough. The conference tournament the NCAA qualifier for you and I is in the McLeod Center.
March 4th, 5th, yep. Be a great event. We're having an all-class reunion back. Going to have a lot of people. Like I said, we once every 9 years. It's a 9-year rotation, so we get to have it here. I know we'll put a great event on, and we just need the people to come out and support it, and let's pack that place, because the last few MAC tournaments I've been at, Missouri had a pretty good crowd, but let's have the best MAC tournament crowd that they've had. That's going to be my challenge to the fans.
I totally agree. Doug, we'll have you on again right before the NCAA tournament, get a little preview. But right now, thank you very much for being on.
Thanks for having me on.
And thanks for listening to On the Mat.
You've been listening to On the Mat, the Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
This show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.